Hi, everyone. You are now tuning into another episode of Conversations with Filmmakers podcast. Our special guest today is producer, executive producer, director, and cinematographer Mike Spiller, who goes by Spiller on set. We hope you enjoy part one of this two-part discussion. Thank you for joining us today. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Conversations with Filmmakers. Let me tell you, I am super excited right now because today we have my fellow Brooklynite, Mike Spiller, who is a jack of all trades. From producer, director, and cinematographer, it's officially Spiller time. So get y'all drinks ready. Also known to his crew as Spiller, because it might be a whole bunch of mics running around and nobody's trying to turn their head all the time, right? He's worked on exactly, right? He's worked on a whole heap of content from, get this, you guys, Firefly Lane, The Mindy Project, Blackish, Modern Family, Scrubs, Sex and the City, and so much more. Spiller, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm sorry I interrupted your flow on the intro.
I know it's been so many. Don't even worry about it, man. It's been so many years of work I already know. So you're just like, yeah, this is going to be a long damn spiel. But I didn't break down all the dozens and dozens of projects that you worked on, but all of those are excellent. It's really great to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, Vonti.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, for us to get started and everything, how long exactly have you been in this industry?
Well, I mean, I guess you could say almost all of my life, because I always loved movies, and I bought my first movie camera, Super 8 little film camera, when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
Saved up money for my paper route. I bought a little GAF camera, and I started making movies in my backyard with my friends, and I'm in my neighborhood and just doing my thing.
Wow.
So
Even the fact that you can
basically all my life.
Yeah, man. Even the fact that you can remember the camera from like 12 years old shows your dedication and everything. And that is one thing I did want to ask you, what was your inspiration for getting in this industry?
Well, I mean, I always love movies. I love going to movies. I love watching movies on TV. I love telling stories. It's sort of a tradition in my family of just, sitting around the table and telling funny stories, and just all of us cracking up and wanting to hear the story again, and say, oh, maybe the story shifted a little bit or whatever. But it's like, it's that's remained constant for me. And when I actually was born in New Jersey, but moved to Brooklyn when I was 5 years old, and so I had the experience of sort of being in a new place, and being an observer of the life around me, because it's very different. And the neighborhood I grew up in was sort of like the first 20 minutes of Goodfellas. It was a lot of very Italian, very kind of mafia social clubs and things falling off trucks and all that. And so it was a dramatic neighborhood. It was almost operatic, because everything was a little larger than life. And I had this weird position of sort of being a part of it and also being an observer at the same time, because although I made a lot of friends and I got accepted, in fact my life could have gone in a very different direction had I not decided, like, okay, I'm going to stop running errands for these guys. But I got to observe it, and seeing the film, early films of Martin Scorsese, and Mean Streets especially was really resonant for me. I felt like I was seeing the people I was surrounded by up on the screen, and that was just really fascinating to me. And then I started making my own little movies.
At 12 years old, buying cameras and everything. But that is a really big thing, because I love learning people's journey, right? Especially getting into creative, because you never know what is going to inspire somebody. I said on a previous episode, mine was Jurassic Park when I first saw that with the Dolby Digital or surround sound or whatever with the little robot that comes swooping in, and I really felt like a velociraptor was like behind my shoulder. So the whole film, I'm freaking out, but it was such an immersive experience than seeing it on the massive screen. So I could definitely understand. But you talking about the Goodfellas is cracking me up. He's like, it was like an episode, stuff falling off the truck. I feel like somebody needs to do your biopic or something just to like he
Hey,
starts
I
here.
thought about it. I thought
Huh?
about it. But one thing
Hmm.
I thought about trying to write a TV series about my childhood, but one other thing that had a really big influence on me, and it's funny because I heard someone else talk about it on a podcast. I had a book, probably got it in like 1970 or something. My parents got it, like a coffee table book, and it was
Hmm.
called Life Goes to the Movies. And it was just this big book, and had all these great photos and
Hmm.
production stills and some behind the scenes still photographs, and a
Hmm.
lot of stuff about all these great movies. And I used to read that book constantly, and I would stare at the pictures, and it's like, there's Marlon Brando, he's bloody and beaten up from On the Waterfront or something, and I just absorbed it all. And then I would, eventually I'd get to see the film. It'd be on, WPIX or something like that. And,
Yeah.
I would get a chance to watch it, with commercials and whatever. But it just drew me in somehow. I mean, just there was something so iconic about these pictures, and uh, I wanted to be a part of it. And even though I didn't understand like what went into making a movie of that kind of scale,
Hmm.
um, I was just drawn to it.
That is really interesting. And it's nice to hear what inspired you, especially all like it going from a book into moving picture, right? So, would you not collaborate, but elaborate, excuse me, because Spiller has me so nervous. You guys don't understand. I'm
Oh, come on.
excited. No, because he's such a down-to-earth person, and that's who, I love interviewing. It's just someone down to earth that has done such phenomenal work within the industry. But if you wouldn't mind, and guys, you're listening to Conversations with Filmmakers. We have Mike Spiller here, but it's more Spiller time in the building. But would you elaborate on your life as a creative? Give us a breakdown of what your average day looks like.
Well, these days, I'm primarily working as a producer director.
Mhm.
So I have an executive producer credit. Um, I'm responsible, along with my creative partners, for all decisions, big and small. Um, Responsible for the budget. So we're dealing with the studio and the network, and all the creative things that happen within that too. But what I really love doing is working with other directors.
Mhm.
It's a little different on every show, but often I'm recommending or hiring the directors based on how good a fit I think they'll be, or if this is someone who's really coming up and we're in a spot on the show where it's like we can really give someone an opportunity who's qualified but is also going to be supported by me and the rest of the team. So I'm dealing with all that, scheduling that, interfacing with all the department heads, dealing with post production on episodes that are already been shot.
Mhm.
There might be a fire to put out, figuratively, on the episode that's currently shooting, and then there's the episode that's prepping, and several episodes that are in the pipeline that are on their way too. So all these balls are in the air at once. It's very, it's a lot. It's a lot to keep straight, but I love it. It's just I'm using every part of my brain,
Mhm.
mainly focused on solving problems, which is something I love. Uh, and, helping to tell the story, supporting new directors, whether they're new in their career or just new to this series, and, showing them where the sticky spots might be, or, you know, filling them in on everything I've learned up to that point, and also encouraging them to bring their own unique, gift to the project, because I want them to make the show better.
Absolutely. And now, a word from one of our sponsors. After starting my podcast, I needed to hire the pros to market the content. Are you looking for digital success? Look no further. World Boss HQ is your strategic partner. Their experts turn your vision into a digital masterpiece. From stunning websites to powerful marketing, they've got you covered. Startups or established businesses, they are your one stop solution. Visit worldbosshq.com. That is WORLDBOSSHQ.com, and unleash your potential today. World Boss HQ Digital Marketing. Your online empire awaits. We are excited to bring you this world exclusive teaser from Bad Rabbit Pictures and Movie Pods. They are presented Age of Prophecy, a sci-fi fantasy podcast done in the style of the radio dramas of yesteryear. Coming soon to all streaming platforms. Visit www.moviepods.com or www.thenukechronicles.com for all the release dates. You won't want to miss this one. Your myths were born from our history. Let's check it out.
Life. A vile, messy sequence of events before we die. All designed for something beyond us. It has to be. Or else, what's the point? You don't know me, but I know you. I am responsible for your triumphs and miseries. I am Zira and Nilzor, and to truly understand your own story, you must know mine. Your myths were born from my history.
Hi there, and welcome back to Conversations with Filmmakers podcast. So, it sounds to me, and I could be wrong, but it's almost like on the corporate side when you're dealing with maybe a project manager or a program manager that has many projects going at one time and multiple different teams and all of that, and being able to multitask, right? But I would love if you could break down maybe from beginning to end, or just a quick summary for those that might be interested in getting into being an executive producer. So, like, a producer of a film is very different than episodic, right? So, a film could last for 2 hours or something along those lines, but an episodic can go for many episodes across sometimes years, right? So, would you mind just breaking that down for us on like what the parallel difference is?
Well, I mean, that's certainly, that's a big question. And yeah, I mean, that is I'd say that's the basic outline of the difference of, like, yes, on a movie, you're telling one story, and no matter how long it takes to prep and shoot that, that's what you're going to do. A series, if you're lucky, it spans years and years, and that's
Mhm.
part of the beauty of it. And besides all the work, you just really develop a family and a culture on the show, and a community, which I not only really respond to, but I think is just essential in terms of delivering the best work and in an environment that's safe and supportive.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, a typical day would start like I'd get up at 5 or 5:30, and make sure there's no emails that need to be taken care of immediately.
Yeah.
If I'm directing the episode, I've already planned about what's coming up in the, for the day's shoot, and I'll have a shot list, and I'll have distributed that to all the key personnel. I'll go over the scenes because maybe I'll have a fresh idea, just
Hmm.
try and almost memorize the material, although not word for word, but like really just seep that in so I know what the heart of the scene is about and the
Hmm.
important story beats. Even if I am directing, I'm still going to have one eye on what's going on in the episode that's prepping,
Hmm.
and also make sure that I'm staying on top of things that might be coming up in post production and other meetings that have to take place. And if I can't be there, making sure that I'm delegating somebody else to cover that or let me know what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, it's it goes by super fast. There's never a dull moment.
I'm
um i'm
sure.
I try, I mean, I try personally, I try to avoid multitasking
Hmm.
because I just feel like I can be spread too thin and my attention is all over the place. I really try to be fully present and dealing with the thing that is right in front of me, while keeping in the back of my mind, the bigger picture, the bigger
Hmm.
story arcs, the bigger sort of burning questions, the running to-do list, and all that sort of stuff. And I try to compartmentalize that a bit so I can not be kept awake at night by all those burning questions,
Yeah,
but have know that I can access them and they are going to get taken care of.
absolutely. So let me ask you, do you have your own personal team and everything, or is it like every time you go into the different sets is different people and stuff? Like, as a director, do you have an AD that comes along with you for most of your stuff?
I mean, the past 10 years or so, it hasn't been. I mean, that was more the case when I was a DP.
Hmm.
When I was a cinematographer, I'd have my gaffer, I'd have my key grip, and I'd try, you hire me, and then I would be able to bring my crew with
Hmm.
me. Um, when I started, when I made the transition over to directing, the role of the guest director is a little different, where
Hmm.
you go to a show for an episode, maybe two episodes. You don't get to say, okay, well, good, I'm going to bring my cinematographer, I'm going to bring my AD. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're showing up, it's just you. You're the only one there, and it's like you've got to do your thing. So there's definitely, I have a deep bench of people that I love to work with. um but I've also done, on my last three uh directing producing jobs were in Vancouver, Canada. So again, I
Nice.
wasn't really bringing people up to do that. It was more sort of like meeting people, who are into it, and relying on the local talent up there. And there's amazing people up there.
Absolutely. And being that you've been in this industry, and audience, again, this is Conversations with Filmmakers. We have Spiller here, extraordinaire. Being that you mentioned that as well, when you are doing these projects, because some of them you are there for the entire season, right? Or even the entire series. So you have some that are like 20 something or more episodes that you've actually directed. Um, when you do the one-offs, is it usually the content that draws you in, or are they reaching out like, hey man, we really need your help? Because that's another thing that people don't know that much about as well.
Well, it goes both ways. I mean, I can, if I'm not on a show full time, my agent and I will strategize like, okay, well, what do we want to focus
Yeah.
on this season coming up? And it might be like, well, I'm going to stick, let's try and do as many Modern Families as I can, but I'd also love to, if we can fit something else in, there's this or that show that, let's see if there's anything in their schedule that will work. um so that's one way. The other way is the incoming calls, where people are calling my agent looking to try and book me on something. But there's so many moving parts, and I've really gotten to appreciate that once I was in the position where I was hiring directors.
Hmm.
And just trying to make, your schedule where you've got the episodes lined up. This is where they're going to shoot. Now I've got to try and find directors who can fit those particular time frames. And then you put one in, and then like suddenly someone else is available. Oh, wait, maybe we can swap them. And, and then you get it all set. And then, of course, an actor will be like, actually, my son's graduating high school. I've got to go back to that. And it's like, all right, well, now we got to start over, and, the pieces move again.
Yeah.
So, but I love all that stuff.
Now, an exciting message from our sponsors. When I decided to launch this podcast, I had the tools to find talent and market the show, but needed a skilled editor to bring it all to life. That's when I turned to Jacob Daly at redhawk.uk. His collaborative approach and swift revisions transformed my vision into reality. redhawk.uk, your one-stop solution for creative content services. Reach out to them. Hi there, and welcome back to Conversations with Filmmakers podcast. What makes you love it so much?
Well, I mean, like, for instance, on the Mindy project, where I did that show for 6 seasons, almost 120 episodes, and it was great. We had a blast, and it was like I had a nice big office on the Universal lot, and I felt like, okay, I'm in Hollywood now. This is like, this is cool.
You
There's
saying
trams
that?
going by. There's people who paid $100 a head to drive past the building I'm working in. It was just like, this is crazy. And that show, especially after first couple seasons, we were like, we got this. And, we did some big episodes. I'm super proud of all the work we did. But, it was a half-hour comedy. You shoot it in 5 days. Usually it's 4 days on our stages and 1 day either like in a restaurant or a bar or maybe on the back lot, on Universal. So not that it was easy, but it was sort of predictable. So if suddenly something came up, like a guest star was like, oh yeah, I'm in, I can only do the first 2 days and have to fly me out and then come back. It's like, oh good, we got a problem to solve. We got pieces to move around. We got schedules to deal with. So me and another producer named Lori would just sit there and like stare at the board and try and, just propose all these different fixes to stuff. So now you're solving problems.
Yeah, I love that. So you definitely like the variety and the multitasking, as long as it's not being too overwhelming, right? So that is really great insight for somebody that might want to get into this. This could be a DP that's looking at this right now that wanted to transition into directing or, producing. So you're giving really great insight on what you need to do to be prepared for something like that. It's like you're not going in to do one particular job, right? Right? So if it's like a cameraman, a cameraman comes on set, that's it. You're doing that, you go where they're telling you to point at. But for you, it's a lot of variety.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're bringing up makes me think of, when I was making that transition from being a cinematographer to directing,
Yeah.
like what were the differences and everything. And, because the cinematographer, you're on set all the time. You're very comfortable with the cast and the crew, and you know all the different players. You work with all the different directors who come in. You kind of fill in the blanks for their weak spots. Whatever the guest director isn't strong at, well, you've got to rise to the occasion and help them with that. And I think that was one of the things that sort of led me to gain the confidence that I could direct, and led other people to see that I could direct. But when you finally get the chance to do it, it can be mind-blowing, where it's like the volume of questions that you have to answer. It's like you should get paid by the question, because it's just, it never stops. And as a cinematographer, you're the head of the tech crew on set. You are answering questions and delegating work and leading the team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different, because you're not answering everything that the prop person says. In scene 7, do you want the wristwatch to be this or this or this or that? And what about the t-shirt in scene 8? And it can be mind-blowing. but the trick is you have to have answers. So you've got to care about everything.
Yeah.
And even if the answer is I'm gonna have to think about that. It's a really good question. Let me get back to you. Or I hadn't thought about it. What do you think? What would you recommend? Because you're here every week.
That's
That
smart.
could be a good too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But people, you have to put yourself in the department head shoes because they're freaking out. They've got to hand in a budget. They've got to figure out where they're going to get all these things you're asking for. They've got to do all this stuff. So you need to be prepared to take those requests seriously and have an opinion about everything that's going to wind up on screen.
Thank you for that. That's a really great breakdown. So if anybody is thinking about it, becoming a director or something like that, then just know like you have to be prepared. And I think a lot of times I've heard from directors that because they did a lot of positions on set, it made them more comfortable to move into that as well. Do you feel like that was the case for you? Because you mentioned like being a cinematographer and all of that stuff.
I think being the fact that I came from the crew has helped me both as a director and a producer.
Mhm.
Not only because, I understand what's involved in the jobs that the on-set crew is doing. And, I can be part of the solution and problem solving because I've done that. Also, you can't bullshit me and be like, well, I have to have, 6 extra guys. I'm like, no, you don't. I've done that. You need 3 extra guys.
That is
Um,
right. You're like, you're trying to expand the budget for no reason. That's enough.
yeah, it's like you're not going to fool me. But the thing is, like, I speak the language, I get it. There's a lot of shortcuts we can take, and that's great. But that doesn't mean that's the only way you can be successful as a director. A lot of actors who start to direct are really challenged or feel threatened by the tech side of it because it's a big unknown to them.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, you don't need to know every single detail. You don't need to be able to describe something in the same way that I could if I chose to, because I do speak that language. The actors are going to have a leg up in terms of knowing what an actor needs, knowing how to speak to the cast, just being so familiar in that sort of inventive process of what, how you're going to interpret the moment and different things you could try. Whereas, as a cinematographer, when I was starting to direct, that was what was intimidating to me, was like, oh, well, how am I going to deal with the cast and how do I get them to adjust their performance? What words do you say that are going to lead to something exciting, and not just, a mistake a lot of rookie directors make, and I'm sure I've made countless times, is to talk about a result, instead of an adjustment that's going to actually get you to that result you're looking for. And many actors, if you tell them, you need to be angrier in this scene, they're like, well, the only thing I'm angry at is you now for telling me how I'm going to be.
Yeah.
It's like, give me an objective. It's like, you're just giving me the end result. It's like, give me something human that I can respond to and build on. And, we're a backstory thing. Say as little as possible in
Yes.
general.
I love that though, because it's like, give me some kind of cue, right? It's like instead of just one single word, give me that inspiration that I could pivot and lean into, right? And even what you were saying about, a resolution and everything, I find like, I've worked a lot in corporate. And I tell people all the time, if you're dealing with a C-suite executive, which is like your CEOs and all of that stuff, or even a president or a VP or something like that, they don't want to hear the problems all the time. Come to them with the solution, right? So,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, come with a resolution or something to actually solve the problem versus, like you don't want to keep running up to a director and complaining about what's going on behind the scenes. You don't have time for that, right? You'd rather hear afterwards, like, hey, by the way, the transformer broke, but we went and fixed it and figured out something, right? Because it's like, and can we keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, look, the show must go on. So there's that. And there's a lot of about, you know, the stuff you said just made me think of, again, kind of creating the culture and the environment that you're working in, where there's going to be problems. There's going to be things that need to be addressed. And it is part of like how you see it, how you identify it, and how you communicate that, you know, because if it is just a whole lot of people coming up and it feels like they're just complaining, well, that's not productive and that's not a good use of my time or their time.
Yes.
But if there's problems, I'm going to need to know about them, and let's be solution oriented. Like, okay, I hear you, that's wrong. How do you think we can fix it? Because I truly believe that the only bad idea is the one you keep to yourself. And I mean, I remember very early in my career, I'd be working on like music videos or something like that. And, you know, the lowest grip on the totem pole, and, you know, walking out the end of the day, carrying my tools, and I'd see the key grip and the gaffer, you know, walking out in front of me, grumbling, going, this is the most stupid, messed up shoot I've ever been on. Why didn't they just do this? And they would have these ideas, you know, and they would just complain about them. They never thought anyone would want to hear the things they had to say. And these are often the people who, you know, are the most experienced ones on set. And it's like, well, I thought, you know, if I'm ever in the position where I'm in leadership role, I want to make sure I listen to these people. I want to make sure I ask them and let them know I want to hear what we can do better. What's going to make your life easier? Because if I can help make your life easier on set, not only is it the show going to run smoother, you're going to be happier. You're going to feel more loyalty. You're going to feel like you're respected and that you have a voice and an opinion that matters. You're going to work harder, because I know that's what I did anytime I was given responsibility or felt like someone trusted me or valued my opinion. I'd do anything for them. So I try to just carry that with me and make sure that people know, like, and look, not every director is the same or producer is the same, but in the shows where I have a say, I want input, because I don't do this alone. I'm not an animator, you know, hand drawing pictures. I'm not knocking animators. The collaboration, the teamwork, the building on ideas, that's the best. That's what I live for. So
Absolutely.
I encourage that and nurture that and tell people repeatedly, because they've had years of either being told directly or indirectly, we're hiring you from the neck down. We don't care about your ideas. We don't care about your opinion. And to me, that's like you're just handicapping yourself by not taking all of what all these amazing artists who've dedicated their life working in one of the most cutthroat, difficult industries in the world. Like, these people fought to be here. They fought. They've ruined their backs. They've destroyed family relationships. They've sacrificed stuff. They've lived through stress. They've done all that so they could be on this set with you today. And if you don't take advantage of that, you're crazy.
That is such a powerful message. It's kind of like stunned me, right? Because it's so true, and we sometimes lose that human connection, right? Guys, we're here with conversations with filmmakers. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to delve deeper into Spiller, because everything that he's saying is it's very inspirational, and I'm so happy that you're here, because those that want to be a part of this industry need that from a leader like yourself. So we'll be right back, you guys. You've just tuned into an episode of Conversations with Filmmakers podcast. We'd like to thank our guests for joining us and sharing their knowledge. This has been a production of Vonti Pictures, hosted by me, Vonti McCrae, a screenwriter and producer. We'd also like to thank Bad Rabbit Pictures for the animated content and creator of upcoming podcast Age of Prophecy, along with our sponsor, redhawk.uk, with all episodes being edited by Jacob Daly, director, producer, and a man of many talents. Come back next week as this saga continues for the Conversations with Filmmakers podcast.